So TSM has announced their new roster tonight. They just released it. Right off the bat, there's a major issue that the organization and the lineup are going to have to deal with just for the entire foreseeable future, and that is that they are not the old TSM lineup. So, in case you missed it, they announced they're going to be comprised of Semphis, old Cloud9 player, Complexity, Nihilum, FNS, ex-CLG, Autimatic, also part of Nihilum, an old Denial lineup, Complexity, Vice and Sick, who are both members of the recent Denial lineup that were in ESEA Premier, and then Valens as the coach, who played with Autimatic and Semphis in Complexity, in Nihilum, and also an older Denial lineup. A lot of Denial influence in here. So the big thing is no matter what this lineup accomplishes, like if anything, they're never going to be a top five team in the world. They're never going to be contending for major titles. They're never going to be contending for titles at international events. And while all this happens, while they're not able to reach that level, they're the old TSM lineup, now Astralis, is going to be doing just that. They're a top five team in the world. So just the drop off from that squad, from those results, that TSM let them slip away. Now they're forced to pick up this squad because they have league obligations for this upcoming year. Um, TSM's already messed up in a huge way. They've already essentially lost. So when I look at this roster as a whole, there's a couple things that stick out. The first big one is that Semphis, Autimatic, and Valens, those core three people, have been together for about 2 seasons now. Most of 2015, since Semphis was no longer in Cloud9. They were the core of the Nihilum team that Semphis joined after C9. Then they turned into Cole. Now they're here in TSM. And as Nihilum and as Complexity, those three failed to make Pro League finals twice. They bombed out of the ESL and Cologne qualifiers last year. Admittedly, at that time, they had no motivation to practice for a major qualifier. They didn't make it out of the groups at the iBuyPower Cup in November, and they didn't make it out of groups the following week at the RGN tournament. They went 0-2 there as well. So, I mean, already half this roster has accomplished nothing over the course of a year of playing together within the North American scene, which is obviously, we all know, noticeably weaker than European and international competition. Um, I have no clue how this team is going to work from a tactical or strategical standpoint. They have FNS, who is a former in-game leader of CLG, but during that time, CLG actually performed better tactically and strategically when Cutler was calling. FNS has a lot of issues when he's calling with his individual performance. He really struggles to kind of, um, you know, perform up to par to get the frags he needs to get the important kills that he needs when he's in those situations while he's focusing on the team overall. Semphis spent a little bit of time calling for in-game leader, most remembered during that run they had to the ESEA finals when they actually destroyed like three European teams. It was like Virtus Pro, NIP, and I don't remember the third, but they just ran through European competition. But that's a style that was extremely loose. It was very, very puggy, very gimmicky, and it's not viable long term. And in fact, they haven't really employed it in any of the teams he's been in since. All the teams that Valens has led strategically, and Valens will be the in-game leader from the coaching position. Denial, Nihilum, Cole, they were never known for strong and effective tactics. I mean, they weren't known as these tactical teams. A lot of their success came down to, I mean, the most success they had really was beating Cloud9 at an ESCA LAN early on in the tournament. They had Autimatic and they had Sanks, who were a really good duo. That was like when they were just emerging as a duo, playing well together. They had Professor Chaos, who had a really sick event at that time. But after that, I mean, they haven't, after that one event when they turned into Nihilum and they brought in Hiko, they brought in Semphis, they haven't really done anything since. So Valen's going to be leading full time from the coaching position, and I can't see how FNS and Cephas are really going to help him out strategically and tactically to make that any kind of game plan or any kind of system that is going to find this team success. So TSM, with the announcement, they also announced that they're going to be hiring a full-time manager, a full-time analyst to live in the gaming house with them. So they're going to have to hire like a badass. They're gonna have to hire someone really, really good, as an analyst to help Valens create game plans, create strategies for tournaments, for all the different maps, to bring these new players they have into the fold as well. And talking about the new players, they've picked up Sick and Vice, very strong players in Premier last season. They're new to the professional scene. They haven't played a season, at least in ESCA Pro League. I'm sure they played a season of CEVO Professional. But like let's be a little bit realistic because jumping up to this level, there is going to be a skill gap, especially coming into a new roster, which is going to have strategic deficiencies. Um, and even when they were on this denial team that was playing well, that looked like they were pretty strong, they didn't even beat Winter Foxes in their relegation matches. They actually won Premier. They were in their relegation matches to be promoted to Pro League this season, and they lost that BO3 to Winter Fox. So, I mean, there's still a big skill gap even towards the bottom teams that were in the league last year. So, I mean, they're gonna get beat up a little bit. They're gonna have to take probably more aggressive roles than they're used to. I imagine they're going to be part of like the front line where they go for entry frags because here's the thing. Semphis over the past few seasons has been switching to more of an op role. He's been very, very passive with the AWPs, not like, Shazam who's going to go for like these entry kills with it. So he's gone away from the rifling, moved to that op, and he's been really really good. He's been topping the league's top three oppers in the league, top four oppers in the league the past couple seasons, but it's just more of a passive role. FNS is more of a playmaker that likes to come in second or third to help take over bomb sites, especially on retakes. He comes in, he just makes the plays when craziness is going down, but he doesn't really initiate it that often. I actually think depending on how Sick and Vice develop their skill sets, FNS might turn into a little bit more of a lurking role, something where they have automatic Vice Sick. I'm assuming to just make him a little bit more aggressive, and FNS can kind of just get pushed out and be a little bit more patient with his gameplay. Automatic is the other guy who shows proficiency in the entry in entry kills on bomb sites and causing or starting off strategies. But the past 3 seasons, he's been in that entry role. He's been duoed with Sanks. He's tag teamed with that guy. They've been really, really good. They play together on defense. They play together on offense across all the maps. Um, Maybe not every single map, but very very often they're together, either on the CT side or the T side. And this is the first time in a long time that he's going to be missing from that. So he spent the past 3 seasons, the past year, building up all this chemistry with Sanks, where they were this duo, and all of a sudden Sanks is now missing from his side for the first time. So Automatic's now going to have to use to that as well. That's going to be a big adjustment for him. So you're probably going to see his production dip maybe just a little bit, at least to begin with. So there's going to be a lot of questions in how the roles are going to work out with these new guys coming in. And there's just going to be a lot of adjustments across the board for this team that's going to make starting things out really, really difficult for them. And then looking even at just the situation, this is actually relatively reminiscent of, Thorin said something about Cloud9 picking up Stewie, that Cloud9 being the team, those players had been like the number one team in North America for such a long time. Cloud9 is such a well-known organization, a strong organization, that they shouldn't have had to settle for Stewie. And it's kind of a similar situation here with TSM, where they're this premier esports organization. They have a great name, a great brand. They just spent a year with one of the best teams in the world, a top five team, and now they find themselves here, where they have experienced players that haven't had much success in the past year, guys who haven't even played in the pro scene. So who's going to mentor these new guys? Who's going to mentor Vice and Sick? Who are you going to rely on to be like, this is what you have to do now that you're in the pro scene. This is what's going to work. This is what doesn't work that you used to do that you probably like doing because it worked in Premier against lesser skilled players. And that's the thing. Like the first guy you go to is the coach or the sixth man that they announced, Valens. He's the one who was cut or left Complexity back at the end of November, and he even said in an interview that he did it because, or they did it, or he stepped back because he wasn't happy with his individual performance. So if he's not happy with his own individual performance, how is he going to feel confident criticizing their gameplay, examining what they're doing during matches, giving like critiquing them, trying to help them find out what works and what doesn't work? How are they going to take it? How are they going to take it when he talks to them? He comes to them and says, "Hey, I don't like how you're doing this," or "This is a mistake. You shouldn't be doing this." And the only person I really see taking that role up is FNS, because I don't think Semphis is going to want to do it. He could, but I think FNS actually would be the better option of the two of them. Just because, I mean, I've been critical of FNS. I don't think he's the greatest player out there, but just from talking to him, he has some good ideas about Counter Strike. I found actually that speaking to him, even after I've been so critical, we shared a lot of similar ideas on certain situations and certain things within Counter Strike. I think there's just some disconnect with him of when he takes those ideas and actually has to perform them, um, in the in-game situations. Um, but early on, I mean, either way, this team doesn't have a large stockpile of skill that they can rely on whatsoever. They're going to have to win with strong team play, really good communication. They're going to have to do very well fundamentally, especially in situationals if they find themselves in post plants, after plant retakes, 3-on-3 situations in mid rounds. And all of these things are very difficult to develop and achieve and be good at early on in the team. So actually, I see them struggling very much, especially initially. I think the first 2 months for this team with the adjustment of, going to a coaching in-game leader, bringing in two new players, with a completely new roster, guys who haven't played together. Um, I think there's going to be a lot of adjustment that causes this team to have some big struggles. And even moving forward, in reality, I think this team is just at best, middle of the pack in North America. I think they'll be able to get the occasional upset over, a top 4 or 5 team. I think they're going to struggle to find spots in the ESL Pro League finals in that season. I think they're going to struggle to qualify for international events at, regional qualifiers here in North America. This weekend is going to be their first event. They're taking place in the last chance qualifiers for MLG, and I could see them maybe taking a map or beating Winter Fox. I think Splice is going to give them some decent trouble. I don't think they have a chance at beating Optic. Um, their best chance is like if Cloud9 and CLG with their new fifth just like completely melt down this season. I think that's going to be their best chance, but I don't think they can consistently reach that top 4, top 5 in North America and then hold it. It might at times appear they'll be there, but I think they're going to be very, very inconsistent in the first 4, 5, 6 months that this roster exists. And even then, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, even then, they have a long way to go before they can even think about competing with European international competition. Even if you're top 4 in NA, even those teams at the moment have a huge issue against international competition, and I don't see there's enough skill in this team that even if they can start competing with the best in North America, I still think they're going to go across the pond and just get stomped. So I mean, this is just kind of it's going to be tough for this team, and I just think overall the biggest loss here is the organization. It's incredible how far they've fallen um, from that, ex-TSM lineup, the current Astralis team to this now. So, I mean, that's a huge blunder on the part of the organization, and we'll just see how they're going to be able to do things going forward into E League, into Pro League. It's going to be a struggle for them.